As the dawn stretched its pale light over the labor camp, the day began not with the usual trudge to assign duties, but with Jack and his close team embarking on a crucial mission of their own. Hidden beneath the veneer of normalcy, they were engaged in gathering the essential components needed for Simon's disruption device. The camp was stirring to life, its inhabitants slowly emerging from their shelters, the air tinged with the cool crispness of morning. Jack, dressed like any other day, had a list etched in his mind, items subtly marked during his regular duties which could be repurposed for their needs. Jack, accompanied by Mira and two other trusted members of the Resistance, Thomas and Alara, moved through the camp. Their first stop was the salvage yard, a chaotic jumble of metal, wires, and discarded technology, a treasure trove for the discerning eye. Mira, with her keen eye for useful scraps from her time in engineering before the invasion, pointed out a partially dismantled communications array. "This panel here," she whispered, guiding Jack's hand to a hidden compartment, "it's got the circuitry we need." As they carefully extracted the parts, a sudden shout drew their attention. A camp guard, patrolling earlier than usual, was heading their way. The group swiftly covered their tracks, pretending to organize the yard as per a supposed new directive from the overseers. Jack handed over a fabricated slip of paper to the guard, who grunted and moved on, suspicious but momentarily placated. With the first hurdle crossed, they split up. Thomas, whose strength was indispensable, headed to the vehicle depot. He needed to procure a power source. Meanwhile, Jack and Alara ventured toward the tech repair bay, where broken machinery offered hidden gems for their cause. In the repair bay, Jack and Alara sifted through piles of disassembled devices under the dim flickering lights. Jack's hands moved with practiced ease, feeling for the specific components Simon had detailed. Alara kept a lookout, her nerves taut as she listened for any sign of the overseers. As Jack located a crucial modulator, his hands trembled slightly, not from fear but from the weight of hope. Each piece they secured was a step closer to a possible freedom, a silent rebellion against their oppressors. With their mission accomplished, the group reconvened at the edge of the camp, near the old water tower, a rendezvous point seldom frequented by guards. Each member produced their scavenged treasures, laying them out on an old cloth. Jack examined each item with a nod of satisfaction. They had gotten everything Simon had listed. As they packed away the components into nondescript bags, Jack felt a surge of pride and anticipation. This was the most dangerous phase yet of their resistance, but the morning's success bolstered his confidence. With their precious cargo in tow, they headed back to their quarters to stash the items before breakfast. The camp was waking up fully now, unaware of the subterfuge that had taken place. Jack looked over his shoulder, his eyes meeting Mira's, and in that brief glance, they shared an unspoken vow. The day was coming when all this stealth would lead them to stand openly in defiance of their captors. The morning's successful resource gathering shifted seamlessly into a day of careful assembly inside a makeshift workshop, cleverly hidden at the camp's edge. This small, secretive space, shielded from the overseer's ever-watchful eyes by discarded metal sheets and worn-out tarps, had become a sanctuary of resistance, where tools of liberation were forged from the scraps of oppression. Inside, the workshop was dimly lit by a single, flickering bulb that hung precariously above a sturdy workbench, cluttered with tools and components. Simon, with the air of a seasoned craftsman, spread the delicate circuitry and other electronic parts across the bench. "This is the heart of the device," he explained to Jack, pointing to a small, intricate board with various electronic components. "It's designed to emit a powerful electromagnetic pulse, strong enough to disrupt their communication systems temporarily." Jack leaned in, his focus intense as he picked up the soldering iron. He connected wires to the modulator, mimicking Simon's expert movements. "Like this?" he asked, seeking approval. "Exactly like that," Simon nodded, his eyes crinkling with satisfaction. "You have steady hands, Jack. You could have been an engineer in another life." As they worked, the cramped space filled with the hum of their activity and the occasional spark from the soldering iron. Simon recounted tales of his past projects, drawing a line between the peaceful pursuits of his earlier career and the current mission. "We used to build to create and enhance," he mused, his voice tinged with nostalgia. "Now we build to disrupt, to survive. But the essence of engineering remains the same, solving problems, making the impossible possible. Their progress wasn't without setbacks. A critical piece malfunctioned at one point, causing a temporary halt. Jack's frustration was palpable. His fists clenched as he stared at the stubborn component. Simon's calm voice broke through the tension. "Every problem has a solution, Jack. Let's tackle this one step at a time." Together, they tested alternatives, finally bypassing the issue with a creative workaround that Simon devised. By late afternoon, the device was assembled, a nondescript metal box, small and unassuming, yet packed with potential to tilt the scales in their favor. They connected it to a makeshift testing rig, an array of old screens and receivers they had salvaged. With bated breath, they activated the device. The screens flickered and went dark, the signal completely scrambled. "We did it, Simon," Jack exclaimed, a wide grin breaking across his face as the screens remained dark. Simon's response was a mixture of pride and caution. "Yes, we did. But remember, this is just the beginning. The real challenge is using it effectively without getting caught." As they cleaned up, concealing their tools and hiding the device in a secret compartment beneath the workbench, the weight of their next steps pressed down on them. They needed to transport and deploy the device without alerting the overseers, a task requiring precision and stealth. Jack stood at the doorway of the workshop, looking out as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of orange and purple. The camp was quieting down for the night, but the quiet was deceptive, charged with the undercurrents of their brewing storm. Turning to Simon, who was securing the last of their tools, Jack felt a surge of determination. "We're ready for the next step," he said, his voice steady. Simon nodded, locking eyes with Jack. "Yes, we are. Let's bring a bit of the old world back." As night fell, the workshop was cloaked in darkness, a mere shadow in the vastness of the camp. But inside, the seeds of rebellion had been sown, ready to sprout into action. Under the cover of pre-dawn darkness, Jack and Simon tread quietly towards an abandoned corner of the labor camp, known for its minimal surveillance. The air was bitterly cold, the kind that bites at exposed skin, and the barren trees cast eerie shadows in the dim light. They arrived at their chosen testing site, a forgotten area littered with derelict machinery and the remnants of a dismantled communications tower, perfect for their needs. Simon set the device atop an old, flat-topped crate, steadying it against the uneven ground strewn with debris and rusted metal parts. "All right, let's connect everything. Remember, we need to monitor its range and effectiveness without attracting any attention," Simon whispered as he hooked the device to a compact, battery-powered generator they had managed to scavenge. Jack's role was to keep watch. His eyes darted across the dim outlines of the camp's distant buildings, vigilant for any unwelcome interruptions. The quiet of the early morning was unnerving, every rustle and distant clang sounding louder than it should. With a nod from Simon, indicating everything was set, Jack joined him by the crate. Simon held a jury-rigged remote, a small box with a single red button at the center, repurposed from an old garage door opener. He gave Jack a tense look, signaling the gravity of the moment, and pressed the button. The device hummed softly, vibrating faintly against the crate. It was an underwhelming sound for such a pivotal test, but the effect was immediate. A distant security light flickered and died, and the static noise from an overseer's radio cut out abruptly. They both watched a portable scanner that Simon had set next to the device. Before, it had shown a steady stream of data indicating the camp's electronic communications. Now, it displayed nothing but erratic static and signal interruptions. "It's working," Simon breathed out, his voice a mix of relief and triumph. "We've got a full blackout in the monitored range." Their quiet celebration was cut short when a high-pitched whine emanated from the device, and a thin wisp of smoke curled up from its casing. Simon's expression tightened as he quickly disconnected the power. "Looks like we pushed it too hard. The resistor couldn't handle the load. We'll need to replace it with something more robust," he muttered, inspecting the charred electronic. Jack nodded, squatting beside Simon to look at the damaged part. "We fix this, reinforce it, and try again. We need this to hold up longer under real conditions." They packed up their equipment with practiced efficiency, leaving no trace of their presence. As the first hints of dawn began to lighten the sky, As they walked back towards their hidden workshop, the camp slowly began to stir, oblivious to the small victory just outside its perimeter. Inside their workshop, Simon set to work repairing the device, his hands steady and sure, while Jack updated their plans based on the test's outcomes. Each adjustment on paper mirrored a step forward in their mission, refining their strategy and solidifying their resolve. This successful test was more than just a technical victory. It was a proof of concept that their rebellion could disrupt the oppressive regime under which they suffered. It bolstered their confidence and commitment, each man silently acknowledging the path ahead was fraught with dangers, but now, undeniably possible. They were not just fighting back, they were moving forward. With the morning's success still fresh, Jack felt a surge of urgency to strengthen their ranks. The sun was climbing higher, casting stark shadows across the labor camp as he navigated through the throngs of weary workers. Their faces, marked by the rigors of their daily toils, were searching for something, perhaps unknowingly, that Jack was about to offer. He approached the communal area where workers gathered for their short midday break, the air thick with the dust and the subdued chatter of the camp's residents. Jack carried extra rations, subtly acquired through his careful manipulation of the camp's supply logs, a small bribe to earn a moment of their attention. "Mind if I join you?" Jack asked a group seated on the ground, their backs against the sun-warmed wall. Without waiting for a formal invitation, he sat, distributing the food, his gesture met with nods of appreciation. "We need to talk," Jack began, lowering his voice to a confidential murmur. "There's a plan in motion, something big that could shift things here, give us an edge. But I can't do it alone. We need people who are ready to stand up." Mira, who had accompanied him, scanned the faces around them. "We've tested a device this morning that can mess with their tech, disrupt their control. It works. But to really make a difference, we need a solid team, people we can trust." Tomas, a large man with a reputation for his silent strength, looked skeptical. "And when they catch on? You know what they do to us then." "I do," Jack acknowledged, meeting Tomas's gaze squarely. "But staying silent isn't going to keep us safe forever. They're not leaving. We either live under their boots or we stand up. We've planned this carefully, and we'll keep you safe." Lena arrived, overhearing the tail end of the conversation. "He's right," she interjected, sitting beside Jack. "I've seen what Jack and Simon have put together. It's our best shot, and it's not just for us. Think of everyone here, what it could mean for them." The group exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of the decision pressing on them. Jack continued, "Tonight we're meeting to go through everything. The plan, what each person will need to do, how we'll protect each other. It's risky, but it's worth it. For freedom, for our future." Gradually, resolve hardened on some of their faces. "I'm in," one worker said, breaking the tense silence. Others nodded, their agreement coming more from determination than confidence. "Meet us at the old supply shed after last light," Jack instructed, his tone imbuing the meeting with a sense of conspiracy. "We'll lay everything out then." As the break ended and the group dispersed, Jack watched them go, each recruit carrying a spark of rebellion back to their tasks. The stakes were higher now, with each new recruit adding complexity and danger to their plans, but also strength. Reflecting on the gravity of their commitment, Jack felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Each person who joined was another life he vowed to protect, another ally in their fight for freedom. Tonight, he thought, they would truly begin to forge their path out from under the shadow of oppression. Jack's makeshift shelter was dimly lit by the flickering candlelight, casting long, dancing shadows across the walls as the camp settled into the cold night's embrace. He sat alone on the edge of his worn mattress, the weight of their burgeoning plan pressing heavily upon his shoulders. The flame of the candle wavered in a sudden draft, its glow battling against the encroaching darkness of doubt. Jack's thoughts spiraled as he mulled over the faces of those he had recruited earlier that day. Their expressions were etched with hope, but underpinned by a tangible fear that mirrored his own. What if his actions led them to disaster? A soft knock on the door jarred him from his thoughts. Lena stepped in, her presence a welcome sight in the gloom. She closed the door quietly behind her, her eyes searching Jack's face with concern. "You're worried about tomorrow," she stated, her voice a soft yet steadying force. She sat beside him on the mattress, close enough for Jack to feel the warmth she radiated. "Yeah," Jack confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm scared, Lena. Not for myself, but for everyone who's joined us. If anything happens to them." Lena placed her hand over his, her touch reassuring. "It's normal to be scared, Jack. But remember, they chose to join. They believe in this, in you. You've given them something to fight for, something beyond just surviving another day." Jack looked into Lena's eyes, seeking the certainty he felt slipping from his grasp. "How can you be so sure we're doing the right thing?" "Because I've seen what they've taken from us, what we've all lost," Lena said firmly. "And I've seen what you've built here. You've given us hope, Jack, and that's worth everything." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, worn coin, the very one Jack had found on the day they first spoke of Rebellion. She pressed it into his hand. "You told me this was a reminder of what we're fighting for," she reminded him. Holding the coin, feeling its worn edges and the weight of its history, Jack felt a stir of resolve. The doubts didn't vanish, but they dimmed, overshadowed by the resurgence of belief in their cause and the trust his companions placed in him. Lena squeezed his hand gently before standing. "We can do this, Jack, together." After she left, Jack continued to sit in the silence, the coin clenched in his fist. It was a tangible link to the reasons behind their struggle, a symbol of the past and a beacon for the future. As he blew out the candle and lay back in the darkness, he wasn't alone with his fears anymore. The shared strength of those who believed in the fight fortified him against the night's deep chill. Resolved now more than ever, Jack closed his eyes, the flicker of hope burning steadily within, as he braced for the challenges that awaited with dawn.